Hello, I'm Jacqueline Holstead, and you are listening to On Point Conversations. In this podcast series, we share creative marketing, content, and branding strategies that help your business successfully navigate the new normal marketing environment. Another type of marketing that came up when we were doing planning for the new year for some clients was the influencer marketing. And influencer marketing can be very engaging. I would say at least probably 10 years ago, when collaborations with influencers was more of a novelty, all it really took was for someone to have a good campaign. They went to the influencer that they felt best about. That influencer talked about the company's product or service in either an article or a video, and boom, the effect was an impression, it was impressive, and it was immediate. But times have really changed a lot since then because it is insanely efficient to do influencer marketing, and it's a win-win nature. So what's happened is that the market has become somewhat or oversaturated with such campaigns. So it isn't to say that it's not effective or the effectiveness has decreased, because it's still worth, in 2021, it was worth over $13 billion. But you just cannot rely right now on just the choice of the influencer alone to do all the hard work. It really has to be a campaign and information that's valuable to everyone involved. Looking at it, I would say there are three really tried and true methods you need to do with influencer marketing ideas. First of all, it's got to be based on something that's important and good for your company. So it's about your product or service and your brand. Secondly, it has to be with an influencer that's very much a part of your network so that they're tapping into the right people. And thirdly, it has to benefit everyone involved. Most likely, if you're hiring an influencer, you're spending a lot of money to get that influencer to talk about your product or service. So when clients are interested in working with the influencer, we talk about budget first, because it's not as simple as just hiring or sending an influencer free product in hopes that they're going to post. Because what happens is, with this market now exploding, is that influencers are getting bombarded. They're getting bombarded by pitches daily, or they're getting product daily, and typically they're looking for more substantial partnerships. And you also know that sending a free product could really get you nowhere. It's risky. They're not guaranteed to share anything about your brand. There might be very little return on that effort, and that can be actually quite costly to send out product to people that you don't really have a relationship with, and you just hope that they're going to do something for you. So what I would suggest, and what I suggest to my clients, is that the first thing you do is build your list. Now, what I mean by that is you build your list of influencers. So you know who those influencers are. And we begin, depending on your resources and bandwidth, that might be anywhere from 10 influencers up to 100 influencers. So like any list building strategy, you want to make sure that you're only adding individuals that are relevant to your brand and your audience. So one of the questions I would ask them is, would my ideal customer follow or be interested in following this person? Add influencers of different influence levels also. Don't just think I have to add an influencer who has a huge list. Add influencers of all different influencer levels. So you're going to create a list with some influencers who might have small audiences. Maybe they have 5,000 people, maybe 10, maybe 50, maybe 100,000, possibly even more than that, or fewer than that. But really keep in mind that influencers with significant audience sizes are going to be really harder to access. They're very unlikely to find engagements between the thousands they're doing every day and find new engagements. And they also may be looking for a lot more money. So instead of getting an influencer themselves when they've got a big audience, you're going to be probably working with someone else who is more creating a barrier to access than actually getting you access. So while I think that large influencers are great if you can get into their network, you're going to find them a little bit pricier. And you also might find that those with less viewers or less followers are maybe more engaging. So you want to look at the engagement level of those people too. So how are they engaging with their audience? Are they talking with their audience? Or are they just talking to their audience? Or are they talking about things within their audience? There's a really interesting person. I've watched her through the years. She's actually a knitting designer. And she started by designing sweaters, which designers do for knitting. And she started getting more and more publicity. She was on different types of social media. She's now on YouTube every Friday. She does a video. She answers questions from her particular audience. And she uses and puts out patterns frequently with using yarn from new producers. So she is really an influencer in the knitting marketplace. And she's getting in with people who are giving her yarn to knit for her sweaters. And those people are doing very well, because then some, people who want to knit that sweater are probably going to go to her source first before they try to find a substitute if they can't get to those sources that she used for that particular pattern. She is definitely one that's talking with her audience. Now, I also know she attends trade shows, or she did when we had trade shows, and she's out in the marketplace, and she's got a big network. So she is an influencer that if you're in the knitting group, you'd really want to collaborate with. There are other influencers in that group that are smaller, but they have good interaction with their audience and their followers. So as I said again, just build your list, look at different types of influencers, and look at even different numbers of followers that they have. Don't be concerned about going too small, unless of course you're going like under 100 or something. That's not, but 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, that's a good number of followers and might be good for you to start with if you're a smaller company. Now, influencers, this is a second point, they're getting pitched on a daily basis. So it's really hard to get noticed. And they're probably tired of pitches. They get lots of free product in exchange for promotion. So think about it this way. Would you approach a stranger in real life and ask them to do you a favor that's worth maybe $100 to $1,000 in exchange for a product? Probably not. So it might work if you have the time, and I think this is a good point, is to become more of a friend with them. Now, friend is a friend word, meaning you're going to interact with them on their social media. You might try and find out what shows they're going to, what part of the country they're in. How do you interact with them? Can you invite them to your company to see a demonstration? Does that all make sense? Just be there regularly to be in front of them, and start slow. And engage naturally. Don't try to be the pushy person, because that might not get you anywhere. So you want to share the influencer's feed post to your stories when there's a natural, relevant fit between you and them. You might do a story with them. You might do a podcast with them. Or if you can't get their attention, you might do it based on engaging with them. Engage with their feed posts. Leave them comments. And don't leave generic comments like "that's awesome" or "so cool," because everybody's doing that. Leave very genuine comments that are thoughtful. And even more important, engage with their stories. There's places where you might be able to comment on their stories and show that you're interested in what they're doing, and they could possibly show an interest in what you're doing. Develop a relationship with them. So by this point, if you've gotten to be more friendly with them and you've interacted with them, and maybe you've been able to see them somewhere in person. So at this point, they probably noticed you. Maybe they've responded back. That would be great. Don't ask for anything right off the bat. Let's start to keep the conversation going, because you want to continue developing that relationship, caring about what the influencers are up to, and expressing a real interest in them and what they're engaging in, so that they will also in turn engage with you. Now, the next step is to include them in things with your brand. Ask them for feedback, or if they're local, invite them to do an in-person event. If you're asking them for feedback, it shouldn't be something that takes much investment on their time, not yet anyway. Rather, it should be something fun and interesting. And if you're inviting them to something in person, just keep in mind their time. And then again, as we're easing out of COVID-19, keep any COVID-19 considerations in place. The fifth and last step I want to talk about today is offer collaboration, because at this point, you and your influencer have hopefully developed a strong foundation of friendship. You know a considerable amount about them, and they've learned something about you. and you know that they enjoy speaking with your organization. So it makes sense now to send them free product, give them some inside scoop on a new upcoming launch. You can let them know you'd love them to try the product. You'd be really happy if they shared something with their fans. And if they're interested, make it super easy for them. Provide them all the information they need, including, and this is important, potential speaking points, links, tags, hashtags, or anything they need. Because at the end of the day, you want them to help you, and you want to help them in any way that you can, because it's a two-way street. So now that you've developed what hopefully is a relationship or a thoughtful relationship, some influencers will be more happy to post organically now that they feel it tied to your brand. And that relationship will be the kind that lasts long-term or even blossom over time. I hope this has helped you. If you have any additional questions about influencer marketing done this way, you can just reach me at onpointthinking.com. That's my website. I'm Jacqueline Holstead, and I have a comment section, so go ahead and leave it on my comment section. I get those and I answer them. I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope that you have a really good day. Thank you for listening, and I invite you to join me next week as we talk more about specific actions you can take to reach your own business goals. You can find my library of other inspiring podcasts like this one at onpointthinking.com. Again, thank you for listening. This is Jacqueline Holstead at On Point Conversations.